Good evening. Welcome to the RSU 5 Board of Directors meeting. It's Wednesday, September 11th. What am I doing wrong with the feedback? Do you hear it? Is it farther away? Help. We're here at Freeport High School in the library. This is our first regularly scheduled meeting of the year, so welcome back from hopefully everyone's wonderful summer break. We have Lindsay and Jeremy who will be here shortly, so we'll have a full board this evening, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. So is it just me? It's loud and I'm hearing like a, yeah. If you're watching at home, forgive us as we get back in the swing. Is that mic on over there? It usually is, right? Yep. Away from that back speaker. That's better. Yes, thank you. All right, now we got it rolling. So in your packets is minutes from our June 12th and July 24th and August 28th board meetings. June 12th, gosh, doesn't that feel like forever ago? So quick reminder of what we did in the board meeting minutes there. I would take a motion for approval as presented, barring any errors or omissions. Vali, second. Maddie, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Are you abstaining because you weren't at the meeting yet? Yeah. But I guess you were at the August 28th meeting. I wouldn't worry about it. It's fine. Yeah. Adjustments to the agenda. We do have one adjustment to the agenda this evening.
Yes, we're going to add an additional executive session under 18A to enter into executive session for me to update you on a personnel issue, and I actually would like to move that up and do that before we move into the executive session for the superintendent's evaluation.
Okay. So we'll get to that at the end of the meeting. So on to number 6. I always feels weird when we have good news and recognition. None. No. Seems horrible to say that. No good news, no recognition. Moving on. Public comment. Not a big crowd here this evening. So we'll move on from that one and move right into the report from the superintendent.
All right. I'm happy to report that the beginning of the year has gone extremely well. The custodial maintenance staff worked really hard over the summer to make sure our schools were clean and sparkling when they opened. And so a big thank you to Dennis and his staff for a job well done. Last year, because of the time adjustments at the school, at the beginning of school, we had a lot of glitches last year, and I'm happy to report that this year in transportation, we've only had 1 or 2 minor adjustments that we need to make, so I'm really pleased about that. And on the first day of school in the FPAC, the opening day with staff, I received a lot of positive comments about, and now the kids are back in school and they're really quickly settling into their routines, and I just feel like overall we've had a great beginning. At our next meeting, I'll talk about the enrollment data. That'll be finalized, but I can say that I think we have exceeded 2,000 students, which is up from our October enrollment, which was 1,993. So we continue to grow in RSU 5, which I think is a really positive thing. And I also want to thank LL Beans for partnering with us to provide a team building day for all of our high school students. Today was the sophomores class day to enjoy this gorgeous day, and they had the choice of either kayaking, learning how to paddleboard, orienteering, or participating in a ropes course. And I heard that the freshmen had a wonderful day yesterday, and tomorrow it'll be the day for the juniors to enjoy, and then on Friday the seniors. And so it's just going really well. I've seen a lot of great photos and videos of our high school students enjoying the day. So that kind of just concludes my brief kind of report about the opening of school. I did want to add, Mara had sent me some information that the Waldorf School is hosting a Racial Equity Institute. So if there are board members that are interested in going to that, we would be happy to send a few board members. That's on September the 28th and 29th from 8:30 to 4:30, and it really is, the whole workshop is focused on how to prevent racism. So I'll add that to opportunities for learning in my board updates, but we wanted to make everybody aware of that tonight. So that concludes my report.
Okay. Is there a date you need to know if people are interested in that by to register, or?
Well,
As
I
soon as
just
you can?
think, I think as soon as we could have that information, I don't know, it may fill up rapidly, so
Okay. And that's a weekend?
it is
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yep. Okay. All right. And I will share that I had someone who works in the schools mention to me how they left that first get together on the first day of school really inspired, and how she said, typically she would go to those things and be like, okay, we got to go to the opening of school thing, and she thought it was wonderful and very upbeat and felt great walking out of there. So congratulations, well done. All right, so administrator reports, none. Board comments and committee reports, none. We are flying through the agenda tonight. This is fantastic. Policy review, none. Okay, 12, unfinished business. So we do have a few items in here. 12A is the fiscal year 21. Hard to believe we're already planning fiscal year 21 budget, but the budget timeline is included in your packets in the green paper.
And this is really just a separate document, but when we went over at the retreat, the work plan, all of these dates were included. So this really is just a FYI, and it's a snapshot of all the budget meetings on one page. So it's more for your information than anything.
And I probably should have asked this question then, but I wasn't really thinking of it just as the budget timeline. Is this the same number of meetings that we had? Because I feel like we had made sure that there was sort of sufficient meetings between our adoption and the annual budget meeting for questions, et cetera. That's all in. This is the same number of meetings we had last year?
Yes, that is my understanding of that.
Okay.
Quick question. I noticed that we have the signing of the warrants on April 8th and that we adopt on the 25th of March. If necessary, would it be possible to deliberate and adopt? Or do we have to adopt without any changes on that day?
So usually deliberate and adopt on the 25th, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're not signing that day, so I
Right.
would like to leave that
Right. I think that option
if
is right.
necessary to
Yes.
deliberate
Right.
and adopt and not have anything printed or that needs to be changed.
Right, I think it's on the 8th when, you really can't, because the warrants are prepared.
Right.
And I think that what we would have for paper on the 25th is probably whatever the updated changes that might be made on the 18th. So we always try to update with every time there's a change. So that would be the latest paper on that day.
Okay. Well, that's
And-
good. Then we
yeah.
could deliberate if necessary.
Right, if
Okay.
necessary. But I think this is showing that we have 2 full meetings after everybody's presentations are done to deliberate, but we could use that 25th if we needed to.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, yes, Maddie.
Way down here.
So I know you have to wave at me.
Just had to get that in.
She went from that corner to that corner.
Just feeling like something's wrong.
It's because your voice carries, Maddie. That's
Oh,
why.
Is that what it is? Just thinking about some of the feedback we got about people not knowing about our process, which I think we do a really good job communicating that, but some people didn't hear. So just a suggestion, I don't know if you want to share this timeline in one of your articles, perhaps, just to let people know, hey, by the way, we start in January. And please come to our annual meeting on this date in this place, just to help a little more.
Yeah, we'll be putting out our first community newsletter, in the upcoming month or something, and so I'll just start including them in those. Great suggestion.
Okay, a little
Thanks.
save the date section.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions on the budget timeline? No? Okay. And we're not voting on that. That's just for information.
Yeah.
Perfect. So unfinished business 12B, discussion of the 2020-2021 school calendar. So not only are we talking about a budget in the spring, we're now talking about next year. Wow, look at us. Proactive this year. Hi, Cynthia. Nope.
Oh, well.
See. Okay, you turned it off. Okay, very good.
Yep, there you are.
Okay. Kind of dangling here. All right, I'm gonna work with this. So okay.
I think this was my request that we often feel like we're told oh, sorry, too late in the process. Everybody else has already decided. I was like, well, we want to talk about it at the first meeting to send Cynthia into those discussions with clear direction on what we'd like to do as a board for a calendar. And we didn't have time at the retreat because, we were busy.
So I think before we get into the nitty-gritty that we usually do, I think one of the bigger decisions or discussion points that we should have first is Labor Day, because Labor Day falls later this year, and it next year on 2020, it falls on September 7th. That's the Monday. So that would put us way later. And just as a note, we did start prior to Labor Day in 2015-16. 2010-11, and 2009-10. Sometimes it's just the way the calendar falls, and sometimes it's a couple years in a row, and sometimes it's not. So one of the things I did is I gave Paul Perzanowski a call today, and of course he's already has a draft. And it's but he has two drafts, one where it starts before and one where it starts afterward. And he did say that if we wanted to go one way, that he would be accommodating to that. So he goes, I won't push back. I don't know the exact wording, but it was, he's flexible. How's that? So, and that's the only discussion I've had with him about the calendar, because I thought that's a big one, because that would change a lot of days. So one of the proposals would be we would start school on August 31st. It would be the first student day. And if you back up to the week before, our first two PLDs would be the Wednesday and Thursday, which would be August 26th and 27th, if we stayed in line with what we've been doing. And then
Say that one more time. What?
So I'll start with August 26th and 7th. The proposal would be that those would be our two PLD days, those opening days, which is Wednesday, Thursday, like we've traditionally done. And then the following Monday would be our first student day, August 31st. And then there would be no school on the Friday, September 4th. So that would be a long weekend, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. I'm stating that because that's what we've done in the past.
So they go Wednesday, Thursday, and then they have
They'd go, the kids would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yes.
Oh, okay. So they would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay.
So it'd be 4-day week.
Okay.
And then they'd have Friday and then the following Monday.
Yes, 4 weeks and then, right, 4 days and then 4 days the following week, right?
So I'm just putting that out there for you to ponder and discuss. Or change, or.
Because option 2 would be, PLD days would be the
Second and third.
Then they would have the 4-day weekend.
Correct.
And then everybody would go back on September
8th.
And have you done the math on when that would get us out with no snow days?
Yeah, with no snow, no, I have not, but
It's got to be like the 20th without snow
we
days.
would probably go through the end of June if you had 5 snow days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I always felt like we never started before Labor Day, but Facebook's this crazy thing. It pops up like, prior years. And like August 31st, I was like, oh, there's my kid going to kindergarten. Apparently we have.
Yeah.
So, Lindsay.
Can I just ask for a review? I'm struggling to remember what the big requests were last year that we were like, we didn't really achieve because we got to the table too late in negotiating. Like, what were those topics again? Does anyone?
Well, there was no vacation. and I did bring it up, but,
Getting rid
was-
of either spring break or Feb break was
Right.
an
Yes.
idea. I thought there was something else
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Nothing else.
There was the thing about the
Christmas break.
winter break. They did not like having what was it? They didn't like having one of those days of PLD day. I remember that. I don't remember if it was at the beginning or going back, but I do remember that was one of the big issues. And you had said, Michelle, that you liked going back, and I was the opposite, so I can't remember. What don't you like about it?
If there's 2
Yeah,
days
they liked,
or more.
right, we wanted the 2nd of January to be a PLD day.
Yeah.
And I hated that.
Yes.
Yeah, because now everybody's, back to work except your kids are still home. Right. Yeah. So that's a good point. So if we start earlier, does that result in a bigger Christmas break? So Christmas
I don't have. I
is,
think
no, not really, because Christmas is a Friday. The 25th is a Friday. And usually they're off, the 24th, 25th? And then they could be off through the holiday, and then they would start back on the 4th, because the 1st is a Friday.
I think they would get that Wednesday as well. The 23rd.
23rd. But would we have to do that?
No, I don't know.
I think that it would be a good thing to have the 23rd off so that they're not just going, if they travel for Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Regarding Lindsay's question, I think one of the things that we really went round and round about was related to creative solutions to snow days.
But that isn't something we have to talk to them about. That's our own decision to
But
snow
I
days.
think we were talking about some proactive planning. Could we do things a little bit differently? And I don't remember what those things were, but I think I remember the answer being, no, we can't, because the other schools don't. That's all I remember.
Anybody remember that?
I think it was some of the things that had to do with the vocational school were already set, and we had to mirror their calendar because of that.
Well, that's the reason we have to mirror them at all, is because of the vocational school.
I don't think the snow days. I think we had talked about, do we want to go to like what Camden was trying about the backpacks? I remember that, and I know that I feel like I'm not like wonderfully in favor of that, but we don't have to follow what Brunswick and Topsom. I mean, even on snow days, I consult, and we try to arrive at the same decision because I think we feel like it kind of supports one another. But there are times when we do different things. The
we've gone.
windstorm a couple of years ago, like Brunswick was closed a lot more. We were just out of school one day.
Right.
Well,
Topsom had
Mount
5.
Arab. Mount
They had
Arab was out
5
for the whole
days.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
And
were the
so
ones that
we
were out.
don't, there are times when like, no, we're not going, and I'm like, we're fine. And so we don't try to stay in line.
Those don't
Well,
count.
Yeah, those don't count around the calendar.
Yeah,
The
the
cal-
issue was that we were trying to not schedule PLD days or early releases during January and February because we do have
Yes,
snow
that's
days.
right.
And there were already some PLD and early release on the calendar, so we only could move away from those so much. Yeah, so there was definitely an issue
Yeah.
with those days and related to weather that because we have so many snow days during those 2 months, we wanted a little more flexibility,
Yeah.
so we wouldn't have to schedule them on those days. But I also wanted to just say my preference. I would rather start after Labor Day. I think starting the 31st of August is pretty early. But I want to know how other people feel before we go into all the details about the other breaks and how they would fall.
So,
Oh,
yeah, this isn't that calendar though.
I wish I had counted that. Oh, I know.
So it's 2 years, you jump 2 days because it's a leap year, right, in 20? Oh, no, it'll be one more because this is the leap year, right?
I feel like we're getting really warm days in August and sending the kids back to school when it's 85. It's becoming a little more real with climate change, and I don't think it's good to start off the year with everyone melting in the classrooms.
Yeah, I think, so do we want to just do a quick straw poll of who's in favor of a before Labor Day start and who's in favor of a post Labor Day start and see if we have, yeah,
For me, I guess it would really come into play is where the end of the year falls.
okay, so you want to figure that out?
Yeah.
I tend to be an after Labor Day kind of a person, mostly related to nostalgia about my own youth. I'm definitely concerned about where the end of the year would fall. That makes it really tough for people whose kids have plans and they have to skip out early during finals. It's tough. But, you know, looking at this year, I mean, the teacher day is just because of where the weekend falls, because the teachers would actually only be going 1 day later than they went this year, according to what you just said. Because they were there, I think it was the 26th and 27th this year. No, they were there the 28th and 28th was the teacher first day this year. And,
Right,
27, 28, yeah.
yeah, and next year it would be 28, 29.
no, it was 28th, 29th.
26, 27 this next year.
Oh, right.
So 28, 20, so 2 days before. So it's not,
Still pretty close.
yeah,
It's
I
not
agree,
like
yeah.
it's not like we're it
Sending them
feels
a
like
week
we're
earlier.
moving a week, but we're just scooching a couple days. I mean, I could go either way because the other thing is, you know, I know high schoolers, upperclassmen would only get 3 days that week. It's just a little tough to concentrate. And
no, they would get 3.
they would
'cause
get
would
3
start
because
Tuesday.
the freshmen
Tuesday,
and
Wednesday,
yeah.
Thursday.
The Labor Day thing, after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Right.
If we did the before.
No, before Labor Day, because they would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but they would have Friday through Labor Day off.
You know
But upperclassmen don't go the first day, they go the second day. So they would go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Actually, both ways.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be a 3-day work week.
Which is what it is for them now. I mean, everybody else starts on Tuesday and they start on Wednesday, so.
I think it would put us out around June 29th, but
Assuming 5 snow days.
Assuming
Which
5.
is pretty standard, at least, at least.
So, you know, and that's, I worry about my quick calculation. So I will definitely work on that, and I'm sure this is not our last discussion, and so
This is our only board meeting this year, did I not tell you?
so I can confirm that, but that's just a quick calculation.
I mean, Kate and I have a proposal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can have Cynthia bring it up, like, hey, if people want to do after Labor Day, we would propose eliminating one of those breaks.
So then it would be your 5 days difference. So then you'd have to do whatever else would be the same, right? That would be the 5 days difference.
No, but maybe they would go without the
Or
break, too.
actually 4, because usually one's a holiday. So it'd be 4 days different.
We're trying to
you'd have
get
one
Get them on
them
board
to-
with it. You got to get them on board with it.
Yeah.
Cynthia.
Well, and you have to remember the impact, because the rest of the districts are not doing that. So during, February break, when all the basketball games are, we're going to be pulling our kids away from learning to the games.
How many kids play basketball? It's like only 5 on the court, right? Couple subs, it'll be fine. Yeah. The playoffs are all.
In
yeah.
all seriousness, and for the record, why does basketball drive this whole thing? I mean, why, we have other sports, we have other activities. It makes no sense to me. It's archaic.
So why don't we propose that we don't have the April break? I mean, it's not the end of the winter season for sports. It's the middle of the spring. I mean, baseball goes to Florida to practice, but
Right. So you got the same issue, right? And another team that either couldn't go or would be out of school.
right, but it would be practice. It wouldn't be the state final. That's happening.
Yeah, but that's a big thing for them.
So
Their
I would,
spring
just from
training.
an educational, that's a long time without a break for kids. So that's the only thing, that's why I think the southern states that don't have 2 vacations, they put it in March. Yeah.
Let's go with that one.
Now you're 8 days different.
And we've equally made the basketball and baseball people angry. Although I guess baseball might be able to go in March. I mean, that's when like real baseball spring training is. So,
Well, and if they have enough advance notice, and I guess I was just wondering, why can't they change their sports schedule if they have?
well, when the tournament is the same week every year and everybody's available that week except you, I don't think they're going to adjust for ours.
I think everybody probably in the state of Maine
Thinks
would
about
agree that the March thing would be great, but actually doing it would take like an act of Congress.
Yes.
Because of how embedded
State
it
mandate.
is. But it's a great idea.
Cynthia, would you like to go to the MPA and propose that we switch
I'd be happy to.
one break in March?
Yeah, I'll do
They
whatever
hold
the
the
board
lever.
wants me to do. Yeah, I can try. Yeah.
Is there no other option as far as starting the teachers' professional learning days at the beginning of that first week of September, and then having the kids start? I just don't know. From
That's what the
experience.
second option would be. If we started after Labor Day, they
I'm
would.
not talking about after Labor Day. I'm talking about September 1st. Hold on, sorry.
Oh, so I'm hearing you say that you
so
would,
like August 31st and September 1st, a Monday and Tuesday being the 2 professional learning days. Is that like just not
no, I think that, but you would still have, and you're talking about then having the kids start on the 2nd, 3rd, and maybe go the 4th?
yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
but that's still, but that's an option too.
That would actually get the teachers back later than they were this year.
and the kids are starting in September, even though it's not after Labor Day. It's
Right.
September.
Because we started the 3rd this
Right.
year, so
It
we'd
would be
actually
one
start a
day.
day earlier than we do now.
I do think as the teachers, I mean, I don't know about you, Becky, but as a former teacher, like a lot of teachers like that break between those 2 days and then actually starting in the classroom. I mean, we could ask teachers, but that typically I think is what they do enjoy, that break.
Right.
That's fine.
and-
I just wanted to ask the question. So yeah.
Yeah, and it puts the kids starting in September instead of August 31st.
Yes.
What was the first option that Paul gave? Wasn't it the PLD in August 26th and
27, 26 and 27.
26th and 27th, and then the kids starting what day?
The 31st.
31st. And that wasn't
31st.
Paul that said that. It was all that was what I said.
Oh, I thought he had two options.
He does.
Oh, okay.
But I went with what has been the standard from what we've done in the past. He just said he would do one before Labor Day, and he did one before Labor Day and one after.
But he didn't tell you what those days look
No,
like.
because they usually do 3 PLD days ahead.
Oh,
Yeah,
Our PLD days don't need to match.
right.
It's really just
Student
It's
the
just the student days. Yep.
So if we were to consider Beth's proposal, Friday the 4th was going to be a holiday. Do we need to have that be a holiday, or why would that be a holiday?
I think we did that just for, that's what you've done in the past, to give families who want to travel over Labor Day like a 4-day weekend instead of 3. That's the only reason I think that's like that.
yeah, it's sort of a nod to, we recognize that that's kind of the end of summer and a lot of people travel that weekend. So we don't want to squash all those plans, and we give them the 4-day weekend.
So would it be very unpopular to say start with the teachers Monday, Tuesday, and then the kids go to school Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and not give that holiday?
So I think that most
Because
of our
otherwise
teachers,
it would be really hard to do that.
I think most of our teachers would be, as Jen said, they'd prefer to start the week before, because on those 2 days, they don't get that much time in their room, because we're doing the opening day, and then each building, they're having their staff meeting times and getting through the things they need to do. So I think teachers would prefer to have a couple of days, and then they have a little bit of a break before the kids come back. But to me, that doesn't impact kids, right? But I think we could check with principals on that, and they can check with their leadership team just to do an informal poll about which way they prefer to do it.
I guess I'm still confused. Why couldn't the students start the 30th or the 1st? Or the 31st or the 1st?
They can, that's what her recommendation was the 31st.
Valley had just said she felt like it was a little bit early
Oh.
to start it, and then I think Beth's suggestion was, well, maybe if we just move it 2 days, then it would be, they could go on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, but they can start on the 31st because you've done that 3 other years.
So, I'm sad to say, I definitely don't want us to go so late in June. And I don't anticipate having fewer than 5 snow days. So sadly, I would propose we start before Labor Day. I like these other ideas. And I would like us to keep putting it out there to our colleagues every year that we're interested in exploring this option of either moving it to a 1-week break in March, or I agree with you to have, it would be hard to forego February or April, but to move it to March, I think we should keep asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't disagree. I think we should keep raising the option and see if we can ever get some traction with it. The only thing I disagree with is, other than basketball, I don't see a reason. I mean, they've only been back in school for like 4 weeks, and they get another week off. It seems they just get back in the groove, and it's another week off.
There's a couple of holidays in there, right? There's
It's
Martin Luther King.
President's Day,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, President's Day usually falls during.
That's the Monday of vacation week,
Vacation,
I
right.
think. Yep. So, okay, so let's do a quick straw poll. If you prefer a before Labor Day start. Right, so before Labor Day, but open to, could it be a Monday, Tuesday, and then, I mean, that'll be you talking with the leadership team and the teachers, so, after Labor Day start. Yeah, okay. So that was Mara and Bali, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Do we want to push something if it's only a couple people on the board? So, who would be in favor of pursuing 1 week of vacation as opposed to 2? I'm sort of on the fence, though. Yeah, okay. So that's a majority. Yes, of course.
Just for the sake of the communicating why we want to do that, if I could just try to articulate, I think it was to avoid the snow days continually pushing us later and later into the summer, so it would give us more flexibility to end at a reasonable time more consistently, is the purpose of proposing that.
Yeah, I mean, because they're
Not just
certainly
like anti-vacation.
right. Yeah,
We hate vacation. I mean, it's a PR thing. You guys spin it the right way.
we want to get them on summer vacation sooner because I mean, Maddie mentioned it. A lot of the camps start, and we're still in school,
Right.
right?
The
And
last
you
week
don't
of
know
June is
that,
usually
and
camp.
like you pay for camp, and you either yank your kid out of the last 3 days of school, or you don't go and lose the money, which isn't great. So, okay,
Thank
you have what you need.
I have what I need to get started.
Yes, Valley.
So this is related to the calendar, but not next year's calendar, but this year's calendar. Could anyone explain what happened to
Graduation?
cause the whole senior class to forego a whole week of school? Not that my son wasn't thrilled about it, but I'm wondering why that happened. And I'm also looking at the calendar, and I'm surprised. Did we approve Monday to be the last day of school? I don't remember that. But
I think we
maybe
did
I
because
wasn't
we knew there was going to
informed.
be snow days that would add on.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. Ooh, I hope I get this right. So we booked graduation thinking it was going to be, we booked graduation without closely looking at the calendar, I think is what happened to us. Yes, exactly. And so then when we realized our mistake, there weren't options to change it because, the Merrill books like productions and different things like that. And we talked about a couple of other options, and so this ended up, when we really counted days, we were 1 day shy of the 170 required days that seniors are supposed to go. And so I contacted the commissioner. So obviously we'll have many more eyes on the dates and the time, but that's basically what happened.
So basically, it was booked as like the closest Sunday to the date of this year. It's like,
Yes.
oh, we did on the 7th, and but not thinking that it was actually the following week that school ended.
So how does that impact the learning? Say does everything get pushed a week earlier, like the senior projects and the presentations? Everything gets compressed. Yes. Okay.
Unless they all want to come for April break. Jen's like, no. Yeah.
So is the date that's listed on the calendar correct to align with the day that we have booked with Merrill, the 7th?
This
This
is the right
is
one.
the revised
right one.
calendar, and
Okay.
this is all correct now.
Okay.
And we'll continue to push that out. And we've done the communication with what I consider key people like the seniors and the parents who are really working on all the graduation stuff, which is, I think was our biggest concern. Like, wonder if they've already booked the venue for project graduation, but luckily none of that had been done.
Okay, so any other questions on the calendar? All right. So, C. So, unfinished business. Consideration and approval of an RSU 5 board rep for the Maine Region 10 Technical High School Board. So, I'm guessing folks saw the email that Ginny did some digging for us. We have 2 seats on the Region 10 board, and as of now, or as of our retreat, we didn't have any board members that had agreed to serve on that, so we were going to try and be creative and see if we could find some community members that might be interested. Upon further digging, it turns out that of those two, one of them has to be an elected member of the board. So we can certainly try and find one community member to fill one of those seats, but somebody on the board has to step up and be on that Region 10 vocational technical high school board. So we're gonna pull straws. Yes, Lindsay.
Can we have a review maybe from Kate when that meets, just so we can go through logistics in our brains, like how to fit this in?
Yeah, I want to make sure I get this straight. It's a Monday night. It's once a month, but I want to make sure, is it the second? Of course they're not. I'm in the wrong year because I was looking at 2020. Yeah. I'm like, where'd they all go? Okay. Are they going to be on here still? Maybe not. I want to say it's the second Tuesday. Or second Monday of the month.
Does it align with our board meetings? Because aren't we the second and fourth typically? Yeah, I know, but of
Is
the
it in
same
the
weeks.
same
Is it
week?
typically the same week as our board meeting?
Sometime, yeah.
But ours is just every other week, so I guess ours probably rotates through.
Sometimes, I've had both in the same week.
But not consistent. It's not
Yeah.
always that way. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. Let me just double check. I know I have an email here when I asked when I started. And so let me just check that and I'll tell you for sure.
But definitely Mondays, once a month.
At 6:30.
In Brunswick?
Yeah, at Region 10. Yep.
Oh, it's at the high school?
Yep.
Okay. And roughly how long do those meetings go?
They used to be like really quick, and I was like, this isn't going to be that bad. But they have gotten a little bit longer as, I'd say like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Definitely not like
Our board meetings.
And now, Jim is back being chair, and he's like, boop, 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 gets us in and out. So.
Because Jim Grant is on the Brunswick School Board. Yeah. So hopefully we can, yes.
So I was considering we only did 10 minutes for this might be a bad idea to bring this up, but I was a little inspired by Becky's readings that we did for the leadership lessons from the sea. And one of the things I did get out of that was sort of sharing of responsibilities. And it got me thinking, and I think I hit send on the email, I'm not sure, to the board members about equity among board members in terms of being on committees. And I think that I'm the first to admit when I joined the board, I did not realize the other commitments that I was going to have, either for lack of paying attention or not, I don't know. But, obviously some committees take up a lot more time than others. And I think that, unfortunately, some of the committees that take up a lot of time, the same people do them. And I think maybe we should look at kind of rotating, which would give everyone an opportunity to learn all aspects of the committees in the board, and also for it to be equitable among the board members. So that's just my thoughts on that.
So not specific to Region 10, but kind of all of the boards.
Yes. Because obviously this is one of the ones that takes up a lot of time. It's been one that since I've been on the board has kind of been, the black sheep committee that people don't want to be on because it is a big commitment. But there's other ones too. And I've been on easy ones and I've been on some really committed ones. So I just think that we kind of all need to share the wealth of the committees.
So I don't disagree with that, but I just want I want us to not make it the black sheep unduly, right? 2 hours a month is probably not a huge time commitment as it relates to other committees, right? There are some that are meeting every other week. There are some that, are meeting much more frequently than that. It is an evening commitment, so I guess I know that's a little bit tougher sometimes for folks. But I don't think it is, and I haven't done it, but Kate can tell me, like, is it a heavy lift as it relates to some of the others?
No, it's just an extra night out or an extra. I mean, you have the meeting, but and it wasn't that bad in the beginning because it's just the meeting once a month. But then we did start forming committees, so now you have committees of a second board. So just like we have our regular committee meetings, there's a facilities committee, there's a finance committee, which that committee is supposed to have a member from each sending district, and that meets before the board meetings like we do. So that one might not be as bad if you get onto that. It wouldn't be an extra night out. I was able to request, like, hey, if we're going to have a facilities meeting or a negotiations meeting, because I was on those two committees, can we try to do it the same night we have a board meeting? And there's some flexibility there, and we were able to schedule a lot of them the same night to limit the amount of going out for an extra meeting. I would say the committees are less of a lift than our committees.
Okay. So with all this new information, do we have any volunteers? Because we're going to have to come up with a way to come up with a member. So whether it's names in the hat or something, we have to come up with a member. So if we don't have a volunteer.
Can we rotate members? Or is that a little too,
I just worry that nobody gets enough knowledge to be a useful board member. If we haven't done it in 11, like it would really be one per year each, roughly. And I don't know if that we're useful to that board that way.
I looked back at meetings. It looks like they try to be the third Monday. It's not always that, but third Monday of the month.
Yes.
Did you say they meet in the summer too, Kate?
It's the same as us. I have been meeting in the summer because I'm on the negotiations committee. So we're in negotiations, and so we had meetings this summer. But it's the same as us. There's a meeting in June and one in August. I don't think there was anything in July. I don't remember a board meeting unless there was occasionally there's a special meeting that needs to be called, and those are usually pretty quick because there's one thing on the agenda.
Okay. Somebody is watching us from home and just emailed me the meeting dates for this upcoming year. So, yeah, it looks like once a month, starting in there was one in August, September 16th, October 21st. So it does look like the third Monday, and then they go through June. So I have the board meeting dates if anybody's interested. 6:30. Looks like they're the third Monday, except for three months they're the fourth Monday because of a holiday.
Yeah.
So. All right. I hope you guys are feeling lucky. Yeah.
Could it? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Me? Okay. I like the idea of coming up with some sort of equitable, time commitment thing. I don't know that rotating every committee frequently jives with me. Just for a similar reason. Like it kind of takes a while to get into it. But is there some other way? I mean, I was thinking maybe we could. I don't think we could do this right now in this meeting, but maybe we could. People who've been on these committees before just sort of like estimate how many hours per calendar year they think each committee is, and then we could just kind of look at the distribution, and then whoever has the least amount of estimated hours would get that for this year, and then we could kind of do that in kind of like not, I mean, the stipend committee is like a huge deal. I hope it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but just some way of just being like, because I mean, like the cable committee never, I mean, we met once, so that's like, I can say that's 0.
Or
But
like
the
that could be their
negotiations,
only,
it's like, wow,
yeah,
that's really
huge.
intense. Whoa.
See, the cable people were like,
Yeah, cable guys, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they are so vastly different, and it's too hard to mentally compute it all now, so like I don't know where I fall in the spectrum. So I don't know that I should be volunteering or that I should.
I think you should.
Could it be a shared position? Could 2 people share that?
I mean, I think that makes more sense than rotating amongst the whole board. I don't know. Jenny, if you're listening. Yes.
Because honestly, the meeting, I guess it's more like of a night thing. I mean, when we were doing negotiations, we were meeting like 4 to 8, and we met 4 to 8 for weeks and weeks and weeks, and the stipend committees met for half days. So it does seem, I don't know why that one seems so overwhelming, if it's because it's a night or something, but there are other committees that, like Lindsay said, I mean, that have a huge commitment of time. So I agree with what Lindsay said, is kind of computing some of that and making sure there's at least some level of equity in the load that each person has.
All of our new board members are like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Yeah, I do want to echo what Lindsay said, and also different people have different interests. So
And skill
if
sets.
someone doesn't want to be in finance because they don't enjoy it or they don't feel comfortable, then we shouldn't be forcing people into committees that they're not naturally attracted to. But I do agree that it would be a good idea to just look at what the time commitment is from every board member and try to even it out somehow.
Yeah, Lindsay.
Well, and I mean, even though that might take a little bit of footwork for like, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 board members or somebody on just to kind of this week kind of come up with a computed thing, that is probably going to be pretty consistent year to year. So it's not going to be time wasted. I mean, we could kind of continue to
I think
use
it'll,
that over the years.
yeah, I mean, the ones that vary year to year, clearly negotiations, right? So a negotiations committee in a negotiating year is a much bigger time commitment than in a non-contract year. I think the stipend, this is a sort of a one-time, I mean, maybe it's a once every 10 years, but it's not a every year you're going to be overhauling the system that, to that level. So hopefully that becomes a little more normalized after, hopefully not even this whole year, right? Because you guys are well on your way. I think it's going to take the rest of this year. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. So, so I think there's some that might vary a little bit, but I would say on the whole, strategic communications is probably pretty consistent. Policy is probably pretty consistent. Finance is probably pretty consistent. I think Region 10 is typically pretty consistent. So, I mean, maybe we do love our surveys. Maybe we send out a survey to the board members and, list the committees you've been on over time and sort of your best estimate of the time commitment that you put in. So, yeah, Maddie.
I just wonder if other school boards wrestle with this as much as we are. I mean, are they having a hard time filling that board? And if so, should we bring that back, the feedback about how that board governance works? And do they want to relook at it? Honestly, it's the added committees that is giving me pause. And also, I teach a class that frequently meets on a Monday night, so it's personally a challenge for me, and I know we all have things like that. So,
So could we ask Region 10 if one board member can consistently attend the board meetings, but other board members fill in their committee work?
Do we have someone that would be willing to do the board meetings if we could help with the committees? I mean, I'm happy to bring that to them as a question, but I don't want them to say sure, and then we're like, yeah, we don't have that either. We were just curious. Yeah.
I would be willing to split the meetings, because I don't teach every Monday night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some that I could go to. So, I mean, if somebody wanted to share that responsibility, but I'm not signing up for more committees.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say it does not seem like other districts have any trouble filling any of the seats. But I would say, to your point, Maddie, that not everybody shows up like we do like it's not a full board always. So I've tried to make every meeting just because I feel like I signed up for a board, I should come to the meeting, and I don't want to suggest like we could fill the seat and like not have anybody show up. But if you had to miss one or a meeting every other month or something like that, I don't think it would be a huge deal. We often don't have a full board.
And I do want to say, I mean, it bums me out that we have this problem with Region 10 because of the incredible service that they provide. And, they gave such an amazing presentation last year. This is not your typical Voc school that we all had when we were growing up. There's a lot more going on there. So, I mean, I'm intrigued by it. I'm concerned about the Monday night. If somebody wanted to split the responsibility with me, I'd be willing to do that.
Lindsay.
So I'm hearing that we kind of have two process options. One is like kind of a name drawing out of a hat, like a random thing, and the other is like this week somebody or two people, come up with sort of a ranked thing, or we do some sort of survey. So we base it on random, or we base it on hours committed.
I would
or
prefer not
projected
to do a
hours committed.
random because I mean I think that's
Cruel
Yeah.
and unusual.
yeah. If we can come up with a solution where people, buy into it, I mean, I think you do it randomly, you're just asking for us not to be able to show up, right? Because if you didn't say you wanted to do this, the likelihood that you'll make all the meetings. So I'd love to come up with a solution where we have people that have said, yes, I'm willing to do this. And so I think probably for next year, the idea of the equitable committees is more viable. I mean, I don't think they've got a meeting on the 16th and we have no one to go. We need to get someone there, and collecting data and analyzing it and deciding who has the capacity, I think is going to take longer than that. I think it's a great future aspiration to do, but I don't think it fills the immediate need on Region 10. I don't know. That's just me. Kate.
The other piece is that there is that open seat also on the finance committee, which is important for us to make sure it gets filled. I think that I want to kind of back up on the committees a little bit, because I was on facilities and negotiations, and John was on finance. I think that was all. I think if you're on finance, like that's good. Like that's your committee. I don't think you'd be asked to join any of the other committees. And negotiations is like already in the middle. I don't think we would expect anybody to join the negotiations committee at this point. So I think if we could get a board member to fill the seat and be on the finance committee, you could expect that to be your obligation. And like I said, the finance committee meets right before the regular meeting, so it could limit your time out.
And I assume that whoever community member we hopefully find to be the second rep for us could do some committee work also? Okay. So it's not required that an elected board member be in a committee, any committee. Okay. And I just want to say for the record, I agree with you that just drawing out of the hat is likely not the best solution, because, for example, if my name were drawn out, I have another board that I sit on and it meets on Monday. So I would come and say, I'm sorry, but I can't do it. So it would be back to square one. But I'm happy to try to contribute in other ways.
Finance Committee for Region 10.
And those dates are on here too, and they do meet right before the board meeting. So it's 5:30 for finance, and then 6:30 for the board meeting. So do we have any job share takers with Maddie?
I mean, I'll share it with Maddie to get it done for this year, but I definitely think we need to look at in the future doing some looking at the boards and looking at the committees. But I'll share it with Maddie for this year.
And I'll just check to make sure that we're okay doing that.
All right. So that'll be our, yes.
That does not include Finance Committee. That's so not my zone of genius. Just okay.
So that would mean that the community member would have to be on Finance Committee.
Okay, so I'll research that.
I could do it. I'm saying it would not be. It is not my cup of tea at all, and I don't feel like I would probably be very useful on a committee about finance. But
Don't sell yourself short, Jen. So I will just say that, you know, the Finance Committee meetings are the same day as all the other meetings. So if we're job sharing and one of you is on finance, you're both on finance because it's the same day. Unless the community member can and is willing to be on the Finance Committee. So we've got a little bit of information gathering to do on, you know, can we share? Does it have to be an elected person on finance? And then we can go from there. And then we still need, you know, if you think of anybody who we should be approaching as a community member for that other seat, we would love to have some name suggestions of who we could recruit. Maybe with a finance background. Yes.
This may be an overreach, but could it be a student?
I think probably not.
Could it be a RSU employee?
We were going to ask that question. Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about that because we thought maybe some of our STEM teachers or something might be interested, or science. Yes.
Does it make any sense to have a guidance counselor representation?
Right. So an employee could be a guidance counselor too.
Right. I think I'll be surprised if that's okay, but I'll research it.
Well, I mean, the issue is that they can't
be on this board.
Yeah, because we're in charge of them. You know, we're not in charge of. They're not governing themselves.
Right, Jim might be a good example.
But he's not representing. He doesn't live here. He's representing the town where he lives, not the town where he's an employee.
But he's also.
But he is an employee, right?
All right.
We
I'll
don't want
research
him get him bounced out of his.
No. I'm sure they checked on that years ago. So I feel, yeah. So maybe it is okay then.
Right.
All right.
So
I'll
add it to the list
research
of
it.
questions.
All right. I will.
Well, they'd have to first be an employee that lives in one of our 3 towns, right?
Right.
They have to first live in Freeport, Pownell, or Durham.
Correct.
They have to meet that threshold first.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So even if they work here, they have to live here too. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Does that conflict with the required staff meetings? Aren't those often on Monday night? No.
Not Monday night.
No, Wednesdays.
Oh, Wednesdays?
Yeah.
After
So
school.
that's not a problem.
And are we talking about paying them extra? I mean, this would be like totally outside of contract.
This is a volunteer position. I
You
mean,
do
it's
get
not-
paid like we do.
You do?
Yeah.
Well-
Wait a minute. No, I'm just kidding.
So before we move on, I want to thank Maddie and Jen. Thank you so much for stepping up to the plate. And I will try to think of people who are community members who may want to participate. So I'm going to cast out.
All right. Thank you guys. Much better than straws or names out of a hat. Okay, so I feel like I'm not sure we can vote on this yet because we don't have something. I mean, do we want to vote and then have to re-vote if
No.
it's not true?
No,
You want to
let's-
just table it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So we will table 12C for now until we get those answers. And then we'll be back. Okay, so new business, consideration and approval of a Freeport High School student mentor stipend.
Okay, so this is your yellow sheet in your packet, and this is the student mentor program where we have our upperclassmen mentor our freshmen, and we've been doing the program, but not through a stipend. So it's just been kind of a set amount that's been in the high school budget, and there has been a request for the last couple of years for the stipend committee to kind of address this. So we discussed this at our last meeting, and it has the unanimous support of the stipend committee, and with, of course, the administrator, Jen Gulko. And so this would put it at the 2 to 3 point range. There are 2 people currently that share this position, and in the 2 to 3 point range, that's at an amount of each of them would receive $1,235 for the year each.
So they're not really sharing a stipend, it's just they
No,
each.
thanks for clarifying that.
Okay.
Because of the number of students we now have at the high school, which is well over 100 in each class, that's kind of, the stipend committee has looked at that and said, you know, when we have clubs that have more than 50, like in drama, then we do an additional stipend. And so because they're dealing with a couple of hundred kids, right, the mentor and the mentee, we felt like it's really in need of 2 stipends at that amount.
So would this leave the level similar to how much they make now out of the high school budget?
Oh, this is a raise
Okay.
for them.
Yeah,
I wanted to make sure it wasn't any less.
Right.
but-
No,
Forget we asked.
Yeah.
and I wanted to let you know, you heard Becky say that this has been before us for a while. We put it off for a bit because we're undergoing this massive review, and we wanted to make sure that we were pretty clear on the levels and the criteria for stipends being at the levels, and it just, so we were able to do that at our last meeting, but there was never any question of worthiness.
And, I mean, this approves the stipend, right? Is it funded? Because, I mean, we can approve stipends, but doesn't mean we funded them. So would they be funded this year?
Yes, they would be because, you know, yes.
Okay. Yeah, where did it
No,
come
I
from?
don't think so because I think we anticipated putting it in the budget. And remember, there's an amount that's fairly close to this already in the budget. So
It's just not in the stipend
it's
bucket.
just
Okay.
not significant.
Okay, that's fine. I just,
Yeah.
because I
No,
know
good
sometimes those are
question.
separate things,
Yeah.
like we approve stipends that we may not even be filling, but we want to make sure that they're available, et
Right.
cetera. Jeremy?
Yeah, just want to clarify that they will be paid retroactively, if you will, because most of the mentors' hours have been put in for this year.
Oh, right.
so-
No, yeah, we will adjust it. Or get the stipend to them.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I would take a motion for consideration and approval of the high school student mentor stipend. Jen? Bali? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Okay. Personnel, none. Public comment? None. So we're going to jump to this one. Yeah?
Correct.
Okay, so now I would take a motion for consideration and approval to enter into executive session as outlined in 1 MRSA Section 4056A for the purpose of discussing a personnel issue. Mara and Valley, thank you. All those in favor? None opposed. 7:44. All right.